The full moon bites your senses, the darkness knows your name. It whispers lies into the wind to convince them you're insane. Your friends ask friends, where you been? Yet it seems no one knows. The color black paints your lips and dominates all your clothes. Your walls adorned with Ouija boards, your bookcase may catch fire. From magic books and murder crooks, this fascination never tires. 'Cause somewhere not so long ago you woke and found the weird. Conspiracies and aliens, ancient demons, cults of fear. It's all more real than so-called news, it's everywhere you go. Thank God that John and Stacey welcomed you into the show. Welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow with your host, authors of Till Death and Beyond, John and Stacey Edwards of Paranormal Sideshow.com. Hello and welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow. I am your host, John Edwards, and joined, as always, by my lovely wife, Stacey.
Hello.
And we keep getting curiouser and curiouser. Well, I mean, not us, but the world.
Right.
It's just like one knockout blow after another, and you don't have time to adjust. And I think that's the way the world's set up now. Mm-hmm. Would you agree? It's like the news cycle even. Mm-hmm. You know, somebody can kill their mother and it's done in like 24 hours.
Right.
As long as they lay low for 24 hours, they can release another movie. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just really weird. Everybody's very distraught and upset about something for a day.
Right.
And then it's something distracting, squirrel, and it's on to something else. It's just the world is really weird because we've had all these incredible discoveries and all of these archaeological things and all of these space things. And I mean, just look back on my birthday on June 25th. They came out with their findings on UFOs and they actually said, well, we're not saying it is, but we're not saying it isn't because we can't disprove it and da-da-da-da-da-da. It's all in there. Mm-hmm. And even back when they came out and they're like, well, yeah, those are real. We took those videos. Yeah, we actually did. Mm-hmm. We don't know what the hell they are. We're going to say there's some country we don't talk too much, just so, the possibility is there. Well, yeah, the possibility is absolutely there. That you're crazy.
Right.
And the whole thing is, though, we didn't get real excited about it. Mm-hmm. And we just didn't. It's weird, man. And I think the world has just gotten curiouser and curiouser. And that leads me to how the world melted down this past week. I love when things break the internet. And the Matrix movie, the Matrix Resurrections is coming out. Mm-hmm. And it looks like it's coming out Christmas. Cool thing, it'll be on HBO Max.
Yes.
So for those of us who would rather not be around a bunch of sneezling.
That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah, that kind of encompasses all of it. I was fine with it until I got the big C.
Right.
Well, wait, that's not the big C.
No, there is a big C.
Yeah. The big number?
The second C? I don't know.
The second C? Well, it's still a bad C.
It is.
If you get it, C.
Yeah.
If you get it, C. So when I got the Rosarona, I just got to a point where I don't like being around the possibility.
Right.
Until we're a little bit, until new variants quit coming out, the Chase Collector Editions. It's like, you've already got that one.
Gotta collect them all.
Yeah, we got this new one. It's a variant. Hard to find, but once you do.
You think you couldn't breathe with that last one.
Yeah, we got you taken care of. So pretty rough stuff, man. And again, be careful, be safe to all of you out there. We love you too much. But I mean, back to like everything being strange and how we just kind of accept this stuff. Again, I always point out Harry Potter movie. And when Dumbledore's taking Harry to try to recruit Slughorn. Mm-hmm. And, they're out there in front of the house. I love that scene so much. Mm-hmm. And if I was still recording music, it would be at the first of a song.
Right.
I love taking little snippets out of movies, but I love it when it just goes, at this point, I just sort of go with it, Professor. I mean, because
it's about all you can do.
Everything he had seen at, 15 years old or whatever it was by that point, maybe 16 by that point. I think it was 15. But it's just funny, you know, when you put things in that kind of perspective. But that's what's going on right now, because every week we have new humanoids or whatever that, you know, take us back. It's like, well, that's and it's never the missing link, by the way. It's one we didn't know about, and it kind of makes perfect sense that these two were doing the butt funnies in this cave. And definitely we've got evidence of that. How'd you find evidence of that? Well, this one bone was stuck in. Okay, all right. And, you know, we find out, you know, the diets and this and that. And then we find stone tools, you know, that go back even further. It's like every few weeks. I was looking up cave paintings earlier because I was looking up the cave paintings that, you know, were not human hands that were up there, you know, from gods of thousands of years ago. And the thing was, there were so many of them. Take a pick. It just keeps happening. But where we normally would make such a big deal of things, you know, finding a lost city in Egypt, that kind of stuff. And they got a dime a dozen now for Egyptian discoveries because they're trying to get tourism back. Kind of makes you think they knew where it was all the time, but and that's a whole nother story.
Like, oh yeah, hey, cover that back up. We'll use that later.
Yeah, right.
When we need some tourists to come.
Exactly, man. UFOs have become, you know, water cooler talk. Whereas it used to be the crazy guy to be like, yeah, did you guys hear Johnson at lunch? He was talking about that X-Files stuff. Stay away from him. I think he's the next Jeremy, you know. Jeremy spoke up in class today. Wink, wink. It's not like that now.
Right.
Everybody's hanging out around Johnson. They're like, well, what do you think about it? And suddenly the guy who's secretly been binging all these UFO documentaries for years is the cool guy.
Right.
He's like, well,
the one
actually,
with the knowledge.
Let me now talk about the Nazi bell. And everybody's like, oh, Nazis? And all excited about all this stuff. So I like it in a sense because it kind of goes like my mind.
Right.
It's this abstract cavalcade of thought that's always happening. But at the other hand, you know, it's just weird, man. Like the fact that Neanderthals now, they keep going, well, we did think they were knuckle dragging, slobbering, basically horses with human feet.
Right.
Walking around. But now we figured out that, you know, those stone tools, well, they were probably theirs. They might have taught us how to make them. And, you know, they've become like freaking fancy ass tails wearing, you know.
Very posh, weren't they?
Yeah, man. I mean, they're playing grand piano, you know. They've definitely changed your outlook of Neanderthals to being fancy lads. There's no other way for it. And that's going to be hard facts soon. You know, it keeps changing, kind of like Columbus, you know, that kind of snuck in.
Right.
Finally, they're just like, well, there ain't no hiding it no more. You guys got the internet. There were people here. There were probably European people here. I mean, Jesus, if you just look at Pangea, let's go back 750 million years.
Oh, I know.
We all shared the same mountain chain.
It's crazy. That app you found is really cool. I like
Yeah,
that.
it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, dinosaurpictures.org. That is what it is. And it's kind of hard to find, so I can always just share that on the Twitter machine.
There you go. Yeah, it's a link and it shows you like this Earth, like a Google Earth thing.
Yeah, it's really cool. You can put your town, your city, whatever, and it'll show you like how many ever million years ago where it was located on Pangea. And what's really cool is with like ours, we have a lot of similarities or a lot of things in the house that have to do with Ireland. I'll just say it like that, hint, hint. But, you know, if you guys are overwhelmed with little people in your home or anything like that, you might be because you were sharing the same mountains and they got pulled apart. But basically like the Scottish Highlands and Ireland and even Mali and like some crazy stuff. It was all part of the same little chain and it got ripped apart and all that good stuff. So some of the same plants and underneaths and all that good stuff. Underneath is my scientific term, just so you know.
Yes.
In that awesome trailer for The Matrix Resurrections, though, it just got me thinking how far ahead of its time the Matrix movie was. Because the whole red pill, blue pill, and, you know, you can take this blue pill and live blissfully ignorant. And, you know, you're just fine. Red pill, you're going to have the intelligence, but you're going to live a really crap life, and the man's going to try to kill you all the time, which is basically where we're at right now. We had too many people red pill at once, and it like went into an overload. We've got people like just morphing out of bedspreads and stuff now and trying to kill us at all times. But it's just really nuts how far ahead of its time, because at the time when that came out, it was a cool movie, but you're kind of like, it's kind of like Minority Report.
Right.
Minority Report was like scary science fiction. 1984, I already mentioned that one once.
Right.
Now we know where we're at on that one. But I mean, it's kind of weird, especially Matrix, with some of the theories that have come out that could have dawned from that movie, really. But, it becomes science fact after a while. And it's so weird. It's like so many things that they did on Star Trek became like possible. People talk about that quite a bit. And I was thinking, geez, that's probably the coolest part to it, because there's a scene they show in that trailer that gets me super jazzed. And Keanu, everybody's hero, right? Everyone's friend, Keanu Reeves, is in an elevator, and he looks around, and everybody, it's shot from above, and everybody, like 12 people or something, are all looking down at their iPads or their smartphone devices, and they're just looking straight down. They're completely being controlled. And it really gets you thinking, how you're always tracked, you're always controlled, you're always talking or arguing about the narrative they want you to argue about. Whatever distraction they need you to have, they're going to figure out how to do it. It's going to be something atrocious. It's going to be something that gets your ire up, or it's still interactions. It's still doing what it's intended to do. And it's still keeping people arguing. That's one thing that a lot of people have noticed recently. No matter what you're talking about, a sports team or anything, you can get people arguing, and they're very hateful. I mean, it's not like it used to be. You want to say something to somebody, you get punched in the face. Mm-hmm. You're probably going to have more tact next time, and really, and as a general rule, I didn't have that many people. I don't remember people ever really going that it's like they do now. They just know they're anonymous. It's no big deal. Right.
They're not going to be held accountable for their words.
Yeah, so they say horrible things that, put people in deep depressions and all. And I thought about all that when I saw it, so I'm really excited to see where this goes.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a great film myself.
Oh, of course. Me too.
But speaking of huge films, I'm pretty excited about something we're working on right now. And this is not 100%, but I always tell you guys about stuff. I always tell you guys when we're doing things. But we're working on something where we potentially may be, doing something with this show where you may see this show, not just hear this show. You can still hear this show.
Right.
But you may see us, voicing this show. You could see us do it on video. And, not do it on video unless we
do the show on video.
Unless we open an OnlyFans.
Which podcast on video.
Since OnlyFans changed their gears real quick, that only took them like 24 hours.
Well, I mean, what were they thinking?
I don't know. I guess they thought kinder, gentler world. I mean, they're like, we're going to take the porn content, and everybody starts deleting it.
Yeah, because that's the only reason that people have an OnlyFans.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's great. It's a great way to connect. It's things ever get hard enough, man. Well, you never know.
Times ever get too rough.
You never know what'll happen. I guarantee you, our subs would be pretty high, man.
You think so?
Well, I think the horse mask and stuff. I think that.
I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
No, not the actual horse. That's a whole different level. That's like, what do I get for $1,000? You don't want to know. Help me. But just crazy stuff.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, huge things are, going down right now. So it'll be a lot of fun. And by huge, I don't really mean anything monetarily. This is just, it'll be more availability.
It's huge for us.
Yeah. More availability. Big markets, all that good stuff. So pretty excited about that. But I don't want to really waste any time tonight or this morning. However you're listening to this. Pretend it's night right now.
Right.
I don't want to waste any more time tonight. I want to put on my Venus flytrap voice, and I want to take you ladies on a journey. No,
we turned into a smooth listening radio station all of a sudden.
And by the way, if you are listening to a smooth, radio station, and you think when you're on there, you're like, Welcome back. I'm Johnny Nightlight, and you're listening to Easy Love, Smooth In, 66.6 on your radio channel. I know that's not actually a thing, but it's 99.9 upside down, yo. And we got something here for you. This one goes out from Vlad to Beatrice. It's Total Eclipse of the Heart. Because we just found out that one of our favorite longtime love standards, Total Eclipse of the Heart, was about vampires.
Yes.
It's a vampire love thing.
It is.
It was written originally for a play or whatever, but it was about a vampire. And it makes so much sense when you listen to the words.
Yeah, if you sit there and listen to it and look at the lyrics and know that it's about vampires, it's just, everything just falls into place.
I don't know what's real anymore. I really don't. I've lost my grip. That was it for me. I'm going to find out. It's just like Bryan Adams saying Summer 69 actually is about sex. Look the interview up, folks. Look the interview up when Bryan Adams, when they're like, well, some people think Summer 69 is about because they're a little adolescent retard. And what is it actually about? I think it's obvious. I mean, it's summer of 69. It's not a year. It's a sexual position. How do you think that interviewer felt? Like, where do you go from there? You know,
that's funny.
That's just, it's weird, man. Because that was like, yeah, we all made the joke, but we're like, oh, that's obviously something about, whatever, like a year. But I used to add it up because I used to think that guy's not that old.
Right.
Was it like the year he got off the tit? I mean, like what is this actually referring to? But I got to talk to you guys about something. Go back to my Johnny Nightlight here. And Johnny Nightlight's going to bring you in here because we're going to talk about some creepy stuff as promised. That's right. If your name's Jeff or Tanya, you might want to turn this up because we have a lot to go over. And we're going to go over it, not in just one episode. I'm going to do it over a series of episodes, series of time here, because there's a lot to do and a lot to really discuss, but I don't want to take a whole episode up with it because that would just be silly and we've got too much to cover. And I really want it to hit the right way. So we're focusing on one night of recent investigations we did. And this would be on the St. Albans investigation that we have documented on here of doing it. It's Radford, Virginia, and we did it with our mates. Mr. Alan Hynek, Marston himself, and son of Marston, Caleb. The offspring, Coda L. Idolo Edwards, the Daryl Paulette, and of course, our good friends Jeff and Tanya Carter. I'm purposely not mentioning Travis Molden to see if he actually is listening to the episodes in a good, timely fashion.
This is a test.
This is a test. And of course, a bunch of players to be named later once they sign over contracts with the fact that they like hanging out with us. So we always like to have red shirts with us just in case like a demon starts throwing bile or something.
You need the red.
Yeah.
The red shirt guy, the Expendables.
Be like, hey dude, you dude, bro, and mate.
Yes.
Go up to room 3. But yeah, it was quite the investigation.
It was. What a great place. I want to go back because I feel like we didn't have a chance to get to all the locations that we needed to get to.
Oh, we're going back.
Yeah.
We're going back. But the way me and Stacey do it, when we talked about this on a previous thing, we like to go through everything before we compare and share and all that good stuff. So this is not just one night that we're talking about. It's actually one session of that night that we're going to be talking about. And some of the evidence that we got. Now, this session was all the boys and their toys, as I like to call it. So everybody had their box. And we were doing an experiment where everybody turns their boxes on and at the same time, just to see what's coming through. So if you don't like hearing the it was like hell on earth.
There were so many boxes going at the same time.
It was pretty comical. But we drew a big crowd of ghosts. And this place is deceivingly large.
It really is.
It's a lot of twists, turns. It's a huge facility. It really is. But we're not even got to the whistle yet. So trust me, there is a lot of awesome, crazy stuff left to go.
Right.
So we're going to sort of chronicle this with you, and we want you guys to enjoy it the same way. So this is during this session.
Right. It's like the first half of the session. Because like you said, for those that were there and know, we didn't get to the whistle part yet.
Yeah.
So that's upcoming.
That's a whole different hootenanny.
Yeah.
So that's just a little experiment thing that sometimes it's good to change things up and you get great interaction, and oh God, did we get interaction. So this is just some creepy stuff, guys. It really is. But I even had to cut these down. This isn't everything by a long shot. So I'm only bringing you maybe a quarter of what I got during the portion that we're talking about here. And I want to start this off playing these EVPs for you. Now, when I say EVPs, this is coming through the box on most of these. There is a couple that I can't honestly tell you are not just disembodied voice. Okay. I think that you also get that ability. The spirit gets an ability to actually come through that way easier. Stacey, as we've talked about for over a decade, feels that, when that's happening, it's easier for them to imprint on tape. So maybe they're getting actual EVP,
right?
Proper EVP at that time. But for the sake of ease, we're just saying these are our EVPs that we call them. These are the selections we captured.
Right. And I will say that when we cut these out for the show, these are unaltered. You're going to hear them the way that they came across.
We don't alter crap.
On the
reason
recorder.
For that is my wife. When she first started participating on the audio side of things, Stacey was always just a thrill seeker. She don't like to build the roller coaster, but she sure loves to ride it. And whereas I like to be part of the design. So, she has some really smart, clever even things that she'll come up with. And over the years, it's been a lot of the things that I've really put into my canon of this is what we do. Because when she does talk, she says some damn smart things. She doesn't put a whole lot of input in, but when she does, I can tell she's really thought about it quite a bit before she says anything. And, it's, this is one of those things with her is if you have to alter it, you don't need it.
Well, and it's not that I'm against cleaning up EVPs to hear what they say better, but where we have so much activity that we catch, I like to just pick out the ones that you can absolutely hear.
Yeah, if we had a problem getting evidence, I mean, it would definitely be one of those things.
Right.
Where we're like, well, let's clean that up, amplify it by 20 and see.
Yeah, now these particularly are just ones that we thought would come across well on the show.
Yeah.
So they're pretty loud.
Absolutely. And there's a whole narrative that's built. Like I can tell you how many spirits are in the room and there's several reasons for this, but it's there's a narrative that's built throughout this. And of course, my theory, for those of you that have read the book, that is still available on Amazon, by the way, Till Death and Beyond, not the damn movie, but predating the movie. But, that goes into the keeper theory, and there may be a follow-up that goes into it more. But listen, Easter eggs are Easter eggs. You have to listen very closely. And then like a year later, you're like, oh crap.
Yeah, that made sense.
I swear he said that.
So if you have trouble hearing these while you're listening to the show, maybe grab a pair of headphones and listen
absolutely.
to them. You should be able to hear them, but headphones would be much better.
So we're going to start off with this one. It happened 7 minutes and 55 seconds into this session. And at this point, it would have actually been the 11th EVP of this session. So that's how many we're cutting out of this, just so you know. And if anybody's ever, really interested in that, send me a query and I will, maybe hook you up with some of the other ones. I mean, if you're that interested into hearing them. Right. So, there's always the fact that we can go live one night and play stuff, as well. So anyway, this one, what's your message? And we capture it coming back saying, I hear you. So this was after a lot of prodding to get them to really do some talking. So this is, I hear you. What's your message? It's right there at the end. So, of course, I say, what's your message? And it's at the very end of that little selection. And I hear you. Once again. What's your message? Yeah. So that's pretty cool, man. It's not as loud as I would like, but it was creepy enough that I thought I should play it for you.
And you can hear all the different boxes going off in there, like all the different sounds. It's funny.
Now, this one is one of the ones that there's actually some of these I did not include because of the clarity they had. And it was like, oh man, no one's going to know who was in that room.
Right.
So it's going to be hard to, if I'm presenting this to the masses, just without the video, there is video that we have to accompany this. So, but in the absence of said video, it works out better. Just
there was a lot of people in the room. It was hard to get them all on video at the same time.
So this one is, I hate this jerk. Now I get these quite a bit. Don't know why. Don't know what's wrong with me, but it is what it is. And here we go. I hate this jerk. It's right there. I hate this jerk. He actually holds the jerk part out really well.
Right.
But it goes, I hate this jerk. And
I mean, that came through the box.
Yeah, that came through the box.
So,
now that dude's voice, he popped in several times, and he wasn't really the leader, but man, he was a butthole. He really was. Now this one's interesting, and I played these two out of order on purpose. So this says, what is all this? And once again, this is not a person. This is a spirit.
Can you imagine being a spirit in that place and walking in the room with all of us?
Well, this is after we had been doing it for 10 minutes, and know they're all coming into this part of the sanatorium. So for those of you who have been there before, it's main floor entrance, past underneath the stairs, and we're sitting in that big area. Right. So, and we're in a oval kind of, because there's a few of us, and circle, that we're inviting them into. So a lot of cool stuff going on with that.
And obviously, why would one of us be questioning what we were doing?
Yeah.
What is all this that we're doing here? What?
So this next one I call Kool-Aid Man, and maybe you'll be able to figure out why. Oh, yeah. What part Stacey cut off there was all of us responding to the, oh, yeah. Yeah. We all said it back to him.
Oh, yeah. Oh, because clearly we all heard it.
Yeah. So that was some good stuff. Just fun stuff. And that's not something you're going to have on the radio.
Right.
If you are picking up a radio, even though you hear the, every one of those is a frequency. So it should just be, and go on. But the, oh, yeah. I'm going one more for, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh. I love that. I love the very Scooby-Doo fact that we'll all say it back.
Yeah, I know.
That's so funny. So on to the next one here that happened at 11:11 of the recording. For those of you with time prompt phenomena, this is really nuts. This is for Tanya. I'd like to dedicate this next one here. This goes from Jeff, loyal caller, called in and wanted to tell his love. Let's dance the waltz. Jeff and Tanya were sitting. Tanya was sitting right beside Stacey, and we were getting some stuff with this guy, and we had quite a bit of activity, and Tanya's just like, well, why don't we make him dance again? And I don't know if you folks have as much Southern as we do, but that's one of those things we may say to somebody to get them to take a little action.
Make them dance.
You want to dance? Well, that rarely means, do you want to go to the barn with me tonight and dance? A lot of times it either is a fight or a roll in the hay or something like that. Basically take action, do something for us. Perform would be the best, slang term for it. But this was amazing because Tanya has an admirer on the other side as well. And this cat, she says, let's make him dance again. And he says, let's dance the waltz. Now, I don't care who you are. That's creepy.
Yes, it is.
Come back and dance some more. What?
It's right there at the end. It's not that hard to hear. You just have to give it the time for it to happen. And he just says it plain as day. Let's dance the waltz. I'm going to play this one again.
Come back and dance some more. What?
And one more time.
Okay.
Come back and dance some more. What?
It's amazing.
That's so good.
I love it. It's one of the ones I love. Like he said, we cuss. It's one of those that's direct, intelligent conversation.
Right. Going along with what we're saying.
It directly within 10 seconds is responding to something that an investigator is saying with a comical, they're not all bad. They're not all bad. They're sometimes just smartasses like us. And there's nothing to say that this one wasn't being completely truthful. Unfortunately, there's some people with some mental conditions in there. I mean, simple or whatever. And that could have been a big deal to this guy.
Right.
Could have been like, oh, a dance.
Yeah.
Well, let's dance the waltz. And I don't know when the last time people just knew the waltz in general.
Right, right.
I'd say it's been a couple of months.
Probably.
Can you dance the waltz?
I can, but I took a dance class for Girl Scouts when I was younger.
Did the Girl Scouts dance with each other?
Yes. It was a dance class. Like, we were doing it for a badge.
You didn't, like, on Friday go across, get in a canoe and go across to the boys' camp? And
no, it wasn't at camp. It was just for a badge, and we just went to a local dance studio, and me and some of the other girls that were trying to get that particular badge, and we took a dance class, and we learned how to waltz. And
do you remember the joke I made about how I can mention anything? And you're like, oh, yeah, well, I actually went to China to learn Chinese.
That's not really true, but I did a lot of stuff with Girl Scouts.
Yeah, you did a lot of stuff in general.
I think it's just because I don't talk about myself a lot, so these little stories don't pop up.
I've been with you for over 2 decades.
I've got to keep the mystery alive. What's going to keep you interested?
Oh, honey, the mystery's there. There is no fear of that mystery going anywhere.
Isn't it fun to learn these little facts about me?
It's something. If that's fun, I now know what fun is.
Just be careful what you bring up.
Well, yeah. Yeah. I totally believe most of that. You don't get good at baseball by staring at it. Just saying. So now we're going from crazy to, it's as if that wasn't crazy. Now this one, oh my God.
This one's so creepy. Are you doing the one I think you're doing?
Oh, baby, I'm doing it. I am doing it, and I am doing it big time. This is crazy. All right, so this encompasses several catches, so to speak. And anybody who's followed along and got our complimentary board game and, played the at-home version, by now about us and about our theories and my theories that Stacey coattails on. And, I am playing.
No, it's okay. I'll just go let it go.
But the keeper and, sometimes one controlling person will be around, especially in a large group, say a sanatorium, and they will, control things. They will tell people to shut up. They will tell people to be quiet. They will make things go from active as can be to completely docile. It's insane. Of course, there's also the theory that they, use all their energy up and they can't do anything anymore because they did something really big that they worked up to. I like to go more with the fact that somebody shuts them up.
Yes. Well, we've had, EVPs that attest to that.
Many times.
Yeah.
Many, many times. So what we're going to get here is during this session, oh man, this is so nuts. I go, can you please tell us your name? And you have don't, somebody obviously telling them don't tell their name. And then there's a scary little girl or a scared girl or female saying hide. But it's not just hide. It's like you're watching a movie. Just imagine a good Wes Craven flick or something, and it's hide. And
definitely sounds scared.
Oh yeah. And then there's a lot of other stuff in here. This is the stuff that's really point-outable. It's a Johnism.
Point-outable.
Yeah. And then you get something saying John. And then you get shut up. Again, trying to keep them quiet because it said John, trying to communicate. And then stand up. And then we don't know that. So it all makes sense in a moment. Mm-hmm. So I'm just trying to give you a little bit.
So are we going to play the whole clip first all together?
Well, you want to do it in...
We can play the whole thing or we can do it in sections?
Let's do the whole thing first.
Okay.
Go ahead and load the whole thing up first.
Okay.
Can you please tell us your name? Stand up. It said stand up when I stood up. Who just stood up?
Okay, so to summarize this for you, because I got to make sense of it for you, and then we'll play it broken down.
Right.
Because this is pretty big stuff. There's a couple things going on here. And of course, what I was talking about with the person or persons telling them to not communicate. So you'll have can you please tell us your name? And then the woman, it seems like there's a woman and a man that are very controlling. And the woman, like a matron or something, is don't. And you can just hear it. It almost sounds like Tanya would sound if she was controlling the place.
Right.
You'd be scared to death of her, But she's kind of like, don't. And it's got a little bit of that Southwest Virginia in it.
Right.
Don't. And then the girl that really gets me, because I have this girl a lot. Okay. And this girl's just like, hide. And man, that's creepy. Mm-hmm. And there is some inaudible things in there as well, the communication. That is not the investigators. The investigators start talking when you hear the stand-up thing. Mm-hmm. I think that's the first thing they heard.
Right.
Was the stand-up came through very clear, and they were all like, oh, stand up, because it's a bunch of parrots. That's, I love all of you. But that's any investigation, anytime, anywhere.
Right.
Investigators always, say it back.
Well, the don't and the hide, I'm pretty sure are just EVP. I don't think they came through the box.
Well, we don't know.
That's true.
So we're at the point where it's, one of them says my name. There's like 10 seconds that goes by, but it's all still the same event, and it's the same girl that said hide says John, and at that point there's a shut up right after it within 2 seconds because hey, don't do this, and then it says stand up. So that's when the investigators all start saying, oh, stand up, stand up. And I ask, who is it
who just stood
up. And that's the very last thing you hear is, we don't know that.
Right.
So it's very incredible. It's very, at this point, sometimes when you just feel in the zone, and sometimes things are just happening, okay? There's other times you're very frustrated. You're trying to get things to happen. I don't care what you're doing. There's times you're in the zone and there's times you're not, okay? And this is one of those where it's just rolling, baby. It's just rolling. It's happening. We're not overly excited because we've rode this horse before. So we're just talking, and you just talk to them and they talk back. And sometimes you get some amazing catches like this. So we're going to break it down this time.
Okay.
And then we'll play the whole selection for you once again. So there's no reason to have to go back and forth or whatever.
Okay. So the first thing we're going to play is just when you ask the question and the don't and the hide. So you can just hear that, because that's the creepiest part, I think. All right. You ready?
Can you please tell us your name?
Yeah, so I will add one little caveat to this. As soon as I say, can you please tell me your name? The smartass says name instantly. I didn't write that down, but it's there because I know you're going to hear it. So I said, can you please tell me your name? There's always one of those jackasses in anything, a schoolroom class or a paranormal session. But it goes through and you'll hear the don't. And right after the don't is the hide. And my God, let's play that one again just for the hide of it.
Okay. Can you please tell us your name?
Man.
So creepy.
Yeah.
So creepy. Okay, so then the second half, we took out the extra space in the middle, and we'll just play the second half. It's right when John stands up, and you'll hear it say his name and then all the rest of those things, and it ends with we don't know that. Okay, you ready?
Stand up. It said stand up when I stood up. Who just stood up?
Okay, so at the time, sometimes you don't know, when this is happening. But with on research, when I say it just said stand up, it didn't. Okay, I stood up. And that's the little flashlight you hear drop, by the way. But I stood up, and what it actually says, because when I stand up, the girl says John, which is great. I stand up, she says John. The person says shut up, not stand up. We'll play it again, but she says shut up to the girl saying John. And it's like, shut up. I mean, it's like gritted teeth, shut up. And then the whole stand-up phenomenon happens with all that. And then we don't know that.
Which is a direct response.
Yeah, so let's go again.
Stand up. It said stand up when I stood up. Who just stood up?
So crazy. The whole we don't know that.
Yeah. Well, the girl, even after the shut up, she inaudibly says something, like she's arguing and stomping her foot. And I don't know what it is, so I didn't put it down. But it's pretty incredible because it's right after the shut up. And
I like the we don't know that because it's kind of like they do know, but they're like, no, we don't know that.
Yeah,
we're not going to say.
Even though she had already said it.
Right.
You know?
Like,
so she was in trouble. She communicates, when we do the next chapter in this thing, you'll hear how she communicates with me, and she'll communicate with me without boxes. Okay. I had the feeling we needed to turn the boxes off.
Yes.
And I do something, the whistle, and you'll hear the giggles and all this good stuff. So it's a lot of fun stuff we got going. But let's keep this party.
Yes, we got a couple more we're going to do here.
So this is a going after it is what it says. And this is also a direct response because we had set a flashlight down. And again, anybody who's ever been with me knows that I do love flashlights turning on. And I make them incredibly hard to turn on. So if you're a ghost, you turn on one of my flashlights, it's not because there is a wibble wobble that you can fart on and have it turn on.
Right. And we had done it early in the night in a different room, just us.
First room. Yeah,
and it went off, and it was like sitting on cement. Like it was really difficult.
Well, it turned on, turned off, I mean, it was dancing for us, to quote Tanya. So, this is the direct response, and it says going after it.
Can you please go in the middle of us to that flashlight on the floor? Going after it.
So clear.
Yeah, because you heard it immediately, clearly.
Oh, yeah.
Can you please go in the middle of us to that flashlight on the floor? Going after it.
It did not turn on, though.
No,
it was too difficult.
Because that voice is the female that said shut up and all that stuff to the other girl. So when you first play that, you can still hear the girl. I hear the girl through the whole thing. Okay. She's almost on another plane than the other spirits, but you'll hear her in the background.
Right.
Screaming or saying something. I almost think that the matron here, I almost think that she's telling the other guy that that the girl's going after it.
Oh, yeah.
Because,
like warning him.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Listen to this.
Can you please go in the middle of us to that flashlight on the floor? Going after it.
Yeah, because it didn't come through like they were talking to us, almost like they were, you're catching a side conversation.
While I'm talking, you hear the girl behind me. And just one more time. This is really cool.
Can you please go in the middle of us to that flashlight on the floor? Going after it.
Very cool.
Yeah, it is. It is. When you really dissect this, it's amazing. I love sweep technology. I've been a big fan of it since it first was introduced to the field.
Right.
So it's one of those things that I absolutely love. This next one we're going through there's a part that actually goes in the middle of this that we didn't put on here just because the intelligent answer is up for debate on what's being said. Okay, we've both heard something different. So we're going to leave that as a little tease for next time because you got to help us. Tell us what it's saying. And this one answers a question directly, very clear. But sometimes the clear ones are still hard to understand.
They are.
So that's going to be something we talk about on next. But after that, this one's pretty crazy because of how true it was.
Yeah, because this session was actually at the end of the night. This was the last thing that we did, and we had been going, for hours. So.
Yeah. And this is, John is tired.
Okay, here we go.
Let's do that again.
Okay.
Yeah. So very accurate. And that one was a little bit more close to home. It's not one of the normal spirits that were talking to us. It's more familiar with me.
Right. Almost like it was trying to let us know that it was time to quit.
It's time to go for several reasons. But we're going to end this tonight with another one of my favorite ones ever.
Oh, I love this one.
You want to set it up?
Well, we were getting kind of close to the end of this particular section of our session, and I guess we were feeling the energy, and we had already had some things happen clearly, and so John is calling for all the spirits to come into the room, to come in, talk, interact, and he sort of just put a call out to the whole place, and they gave us a really good response. Should I tell them what it says?
Sure.
So we get a voice on it that says, "We haunt the place."
Yeah.
So I guess you were asking them to come do something, and they're saying, "Well, we haunt the place,"
Yeah, that's actually, if I was putting all this together for a documentary, it would be called "We Haunt the Place."
All right, you ready?
Come on, everybody in this building. Bring them all in here. Greet all your friends. Let's get some energy going.
Wow. It's right there at the end.
Yeah.
We haunt the place.
Yeah, like they were almost offended that you were suggesting that they weren't doing anything.
Yeah.
Like, come on in here and do something.
Yeah.
Well, we haunt the place.
Yeah, it's great. Let's play it one more time.
Come on, everybody in this building. Bring them all in here. Greet all your friends. Let's get some energy going.
Love that one.
We haunt the place.
Yes.
Just good stuff. But there's a lot more good stuff to come, and this is something we enjoy doing. So we have a lot of recent investigations that mostly it's been just myself and Stacey. But we do have the group one here, and really wanted to bring this to you. We're being very active at the moment, so it's a lot of fun just bringing you this stuff in sort of real time almost. And as we're developing the narratives, because we don't just go through and kill ourselves and pull this out and pull that out and
Like, well, we got them. We like to write the story as we go. We've learned that over the years to write down everything that happened, to every smell, every moment, every day. Because when you're writing it down in a book, it's hard to remember. So that's not the reason, but damn, it helps.
Yes.
And this just tells the story. We chronicle our life on here for you week after week. And that's our intention, always has been, to bring you in, hide nothing. And that's part of this. So hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully you're looking forward to the next session.
Yes.
All right. Well, switching gears a little bit here to some UFOs.
Okay.
Yeah, we got some really cool stuff. And of course, like I said, this has been the year of the UFO, right? Or the UAP, whatever you want to say.
Right.
You always be UFOs in my heart. But here locally in the past week, we've had a little sighting happen. And there's actually been quite a few, but this one made the newspaper, if you will. Timesnews.net is where you can find this story. Kingsport, the smelly place it is. I say that out of my wrestling love. But this little story here, pretty interesting. More than 2,000 Tennesseans have reported sightings of unidentified objects since 1999 to the National UFO Reporting Center located in eastern Washington. Recently, Carol Sparks and her husband added their names to that list. Most folks enjoyed a cookout or a day at the lake over the long Labor Day weekend. But for the Sparks family in Church Hill, Monday offered more mystery than celebration as an unidentified object once again flew over their home. The Monday sighting is the second time that the family has recently spotted the object. There were silver, and they had no windows that could be seen, Carol Sparks said, describing the two objects that first flew over their home more than a month ago. They were cylindrical. There were no wings, no emissions, no sound. The description is similar to that found on the UFO database. The website contains reports from across the country listing when and where a flying object was seen, along with a description and 20 different shape options, from disc to saucer, shaped to a fireball or spear-shaped object. Church Hill is also the location of database most recently logged sighting in the Tri-Cities. The sighting was also recorded in April. 2 other sightings were also recorded in Johnson City this year. And for those of you who don't know or you're not from the area, there's all within like a 10, 15 mile radius here, 20 miles.
Right. It's called the Tri-Cities because it's all really close.
Yeah, it's like one city. But Tennessee and Virginia and all that stuff. But it's pretty interesting. Church Hill, historically, that area, I've had people contact me several times over the past, 20 years. With UFO sightings. Seems like they happen a lot there. In 2020, Kingsport, Morristown, Jonesboro, and Elizabeth each had 1 sighting reported, and Johnson City had 3. The latest Johnson City report said a round object appeared to move closer and disappeared a few minutes later. I was sitting outside when I noticed a white or metallic spear in the sky. The sighting stated. It did not move quickly, but did move toward me from north to south, opposite of the direction of the few clouds that were in the sky. The spear appeared to move back and forth along an axis or like a gyroscope as it moved across the sky. And when I looked back toward the sky, less than 2 minutes later, the spear was nowhere to be seen. This was odd to me as it wasn't a quick moving object and would not have logically been able to move out of sight in that amount of time. And it says that Tennesseans are hardly the only ones watching tonight for unidentified objects, and it goes into the National Reporting Database and all this stuff. Pretty good stuff, and just goes on and more about that. They talked to a local planetarium director.
Right.
I love South Park. Planetarium. But Adam Thans is the planetarium director at Bays Mountain, also in Kingsport. And it talks about the possible of sightings and, could be daytime meteors and, swamp gas, all the stuff people want to say.
Right.
But it goes into, it's a really long story, very good, goes into a lot of history of things for, a local newspaper to cover. And I thought that was kind of funny and strange. It goes right into my whole narrative of they didn't make it a joke.
Right.
Yeah.
And, Kingsport, for those that have seen some of our older documentaries on our YouTube channel, that's where the Kingsport Grocery Company was. And that whole area is very paranormal.
Yeah.
Like, there's the water that runs under the whole town, the old town, and there's just every location we go to there's something weird.
All the buildings are basically
very
connected.
Weird.
It was all built on a swamp to start with. A lot of Native American activity there. Captured full body apparitions several times in that area. And as Stacey said, it's pretty dang haunting. One of our recent investigations in a building down there.
Oh, we're going back there.
Yeah.
We need to.
We have a key to the place.
Yeah, because it's owned by a friend of ours. So we're going to go. We should do some live video from there.
Yeah, we really should. We really should. So it got me thinking, the whole UFO reporting center and all this, what's the top states right now for the UFO sightings?
Oh,
so
okay.
Tennessee and Virginia, where we're in both, they both rank in the top 25. I thought that was
wow.
I thought that was interesting. That we're in the upper echelon of them.
Right.
But another state that's right here, a sneeze away, is at number 10. That's North Kakalaki. So
yes.
North Carolina is number 10, but rounding out the top 10 would be Illinois at number 9, and of course O'Hare, everyone.
Right.
Number 8 is Ohio, and that could be the people itself.
So weird there.
It's just a weird place. There is a lot of weird stuff there. There's a lot of weird old ancient things there.
Yeah.
As far as mounds and everything that we'd like to visit. Number 7 is Arizona, which surprised me. That seems it should always be like 1 or 2.
Right.
Number 6 is Pennsylvania, which doesn't surprise me because of the mountains and there's a lot of space where you don't have a lot of lights around you. Believe it or not, there's some huge cities, but in our travels, we've always noticed, like, my God, there's some mountainous terrain here,
Right.
Number 5 is New York State. Number 4 is Texas. I mean, come on, from the size of it.
Right. Right.
Number 3 is Washington State, always.
Right.
Number 2, Florida, which Florida's always been a haven for, aliens.
Right.
So
They like to vacation there.
illegal or otherwise. And number 1, and we're going back to Cali.
California.
Going back to Cali. I don't think so.
Well, I mean, they did have all that stuff happen off the coast, all the military stuff. I feel like Arizona probably would be higher, but maybe they quit reporting it because that's like reports, right?
Right.
Maybe they're just like, yeah, it's another UFO.
Well, think about all the stuff we see that we don't report.
Yeah, like, it's normal, whatever.
Yeah, so pretty crazy stuff. But did you know what the first documented image of a UFO was or when it was?
I do not.
Do you want to take a stab at it?
The first documented
image
of a UFO. Maybe in the 60s? I know it's not really narrowing it down very...
No. Older.
Older than that? The 50s.
Older.
40s?
Okay, so this is going to take a while the way you're doing it.
Okay.
Would you think it was crazy to say 1870?
Wow.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the first. It was at the summit of Mount Washington in New Hampshire.
Huh.
So the really cool thing about the first picture from 1870, there's actually newspaper articles around that time that corroborate the story. And newspapers.com is a godsend for anybody that's got any kind of research to do. But there's several that talk about this happening, and it had been happening for a little bit. It goes into detail on all of it, but the long and short of it is there is a photo, and there's actually more to a photo. It's a cylindrical object. It's actually much better than ones we get today.
Wow.
It's a crazy picture. It really is, but that's the first one. And even how it showed up is an interesting story itself, because no one had known about it until like 20 years ago, and it showed up for sale. And then scientists had to look at it and make sure this was real and
like validated.
And then, of course, we looked it up in newspapers, and it's there. So it's a stereoscopic picture. So it's very cool. There's a lot more to the photo. You'll see it cropped out sometimes, but it's a pretty big photo. I have it saved. But really cool stuff. And that got me thinking about some incredible, ancient type UFO sightings. We've touched base on them before, a little bit, but I love this stuff. And it's really, really cool because at a time before planes, a time before anything would be up there that would have us wondering, well, that could be this or that could be that. There's some really cool sightings from yesteryear. You know what I'm saying? Such as our boy, Titus Livius Patavinus. Man,
It's a great name.
I love those names. Known to us as Livy. He was a great historian of the ancient world who wrote an epic chronicle of Rome. In fact, he was something of a celebrity academic of his day. His writings on Rome include a fascinating account of, quote, many prodigies, unquote, spotted in 214 BC, including, quote, phantom ships that were apparently, quote, seen gleaming in the sky. Ufologists still debate whether this was intended as a literal observation or an ominous metaphor. Well, I would take that again. That's pretty damn blatant, right?
Right.
There's also the celebrated Roman historian and essayist Plutarch, also chronicled some very strange UFO-related goings-ons on the subject of a battle in 74 BC between a Roman army and the forces of King Mithridates the Sixth of Pontus. He wrote, quote, with no apparent change of weather, the sky burst asunder, and a huge flame-like body was seen to fall between the two armies. In shape, it was most like a wine jar, and in color, like molten silver. End quote.
Wow.
Thousands of onlookers, including the king himself, confirmed the truth of the story.
Molten silver, that's a really good description.
Think about that.
Yeah. And flaming and all that. It just landed right there in the middle.
74 BC.
That's insane.
And of course, then we have Titus Flavius Josephus, who gave a now famous description of a, quote, miraculous phenomenon defying belief, end quote, in the 1st century AD. Almost apologetically. He wrote that, quote, what I am about to relate would, I imagine, have been deemed a fable were it not for the narratives of eyewitnesses, end quote. And we can't blame him, given that phenomenon itself involved, quote, chariots and armed battalions hurtling through the clouds and encompassing the cities, end quote.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's just craziness.
And then we're going to go to one recurring aspect of UFO sightings is, quote, angel hair, a sticky substance left behind by the apparent aliens. The phenomenon of angel hair has been around since at least 196 AD, when historian Cassius Dio recounted how a, quote, fine rain resembling silver descended from a clear sky upon the forum of Augustus, end quote. He actually collected some of the bizarre material and used it to plate some bronze coins. He reported that, quote, they retained the same appearance for 3 days, but by the 4th day, all the substance rubbed on them had disappeared, end quote. There's been people try to collect that stuff. And,
right.
I told you about one at an outdoor football match that in history that, fell down everywhere and it disappeared pretty quickly though. And then we've talked about this one before, but I can't be talking about all these ancient sightings without talking about my favorite.
Okay.
So, something very strange lit up the sky over Nuremberg in April 1561. According to a contemporary account, daybreak saw the heavens fill with garishly vivid objects and, quote, blood red semicircle arcs, end quote, to dark balls of, quote, black ferocious color, end quote, which started rushing back and forth and, quote, fight amongst themselves, end quote. Eventually they fell into the earth and, quote, wasted away with immense smoke. Many citizens testified to seeing this UFO battle, which later was commemorated in a woodcut engraving that I have pictures of everywhere.
Yes, very famous one.
Just amazing. Just amazing. There was a UFO freaking battle over Nuremberg.
I'm sorry. I just don't see how that can be metaphors.
No.
I mean, if you're going to make a metaphor, it's going to be about something that you can relate to. And you're not going to make something fantastical.
This stuff is all reported.
Yeah.
Like the thing is, in some of these, we're talking about battles.
Right.
Where you have scribes describing what they've seen with their own eyes and kings going, yeah, that's what he's seen. And, think about the time we're talking, okay? Within 100, 200 years BC to right after AD, if you're doing some kind of travel plan, like, hey, see the crucifixion, you know what I'm saying? Crucifixion loading in 2 hours, I mean, it's an interesting time.
Right. I agree.
And so just very, very cool stuff. It gets me freaking crazy because you don't ever hear about this stuff.
No.
This should be what we hear about. It should be out there. But this is like to most people, And then there's this crazy annual record has chronicled Korean life for centuries. And it's an immense achievement by any measure, all the chronicling that happened with that. But because of that, we get things like this. Amongst its pages, there's a startling account of a UFO, which appeared in September of 1609 in a, quote, clear and cloudless sky. It was described as looking like a, quote, wash basin, but made a thunderous sound as it flew through the sky as swiftly as an arrow before disappearing into sparks.
Wow.
Isn't that awesome?
That's crazy.
I mean, just nutty, like banana stuff. And there's stuff, if you go back and look, there's all kinds of Roman ones that are reported. There's one of my favorites, which is, oh my God, 4th century China, folks. In 4th century China, it is recorded that there was a, quote, moon boat that would come around once every 12 years.
Wow.
Now they have this hardcore down. The moon boat would appear once every 12 years. What is that even about?
Who knows? That's crazy.
There's a major sighting in Hull, England in 1801 that is recent enough that it was heavily chronicled. It's just all over the place, but probably nothing gets me as happy as the Nuremberg freaking UFO battle.
And the fact that somebody put that into art.
Yeah. I mean,
that's fantastic.
It really is fantastic, but it's almost as fantastic as Stacey Edwards in Paranormal News.
Inside a dying world, drawn and quartered left and right, there burns a lonesome candle filled with honesty and light. Down a guarded hallway and locked within a tomb, she draws a magic sigil, says some words and follows clues. As the mainstream hills peddle fear and sing the end-time blues, our heroine from Halloween wears black and gives real news. It's now time for Stacey Edwards and Paranormal News.
All right, let's get to the news.
Let's.
Okay, so I was just going to start with this really quick local story because it's kind of local and mysterious boom sort of thing. You love those.
I love them.
And I really liked the headline for this one. This is from Clarksville, Tennessee, and it says, quote, unknown phenomena caused ground to shake in Clarksville. And that's from the police.
And they ain't kidding.
No, you remember hearing about this.
Oh, my God.
So this was in Montgomery County, and multiple agencies spent hours searching for the source of what they're calling an unknown phenomena that involved reports of a loud explosion and the ground shaking.
Yeah.
Now, the 911 dispatch center there received several calls this happened about almost 10 p.m. at night, and they came from all over Montgomery County. There was no damage that had been reported, and nobody was injured, but they could not figure out where it came from. Now, police officers searched for hours, along with the fire department, the sheriff's office, emergency medical services. Everybody was out sort of looking around to make sure nothing bad had happened. And even the United States Geological Survey did not register any kind of earthquake in the area.
Yeah. Listen, there is video of this out there. You can find it pretty easily by looking it up. And the couple of cameras that caught it, listen, the freaking boom is insane. It's just insane. And it gives you a good idea of these mystery booms.
Now, Clarksville, Tennessee is to the north of Tennessee, so it's very close to Kentucky and close to Fort Campbell. But when this happened, it was on the Saturday over Labor Day weekend. So Fort Campbell was on a 4-day weekend due to Labor Day. So it wasn't any kind of training or any kind of exercise, nothing military. So that pretty much solved that question right there. And the police were just describing it as some sort of unknown phenomenon.
Yeah,
at least they just admitted it. They were like, we don't know.
Exactly. That's how they put it out there. And anybody that's followed the show, how many are there a year? I mean, there's literally dozens a year that are just insane.
Exactly.
And it's really good evidence on this one.
So speaking of unknown phenomena, let's talk about something that just recently happened in Mexico. Now, in Mexico, they had an earthquake. It was a 7.0 magnitude earthquake. It happened in Acapulco.
Yeah.
And when it happened, I mean, this was huge. They said that the earthquake could be felt some 200 miles away in Mexico City, and it lasted nearly a minute. I just can't imagine that. That's maybe the longest minute of your life when you're
nuts,
in a
man.
huge earthquake like that. So as residents fled out into the streets, people started taking videos of these mysterious blue flashes of light that were happening in the sky. And this article talks about these strange blue lights. People were freaking out. They're like, apocalypse, strange blue lights. And there is a phenomena called earthquake lights. Now, we're not going to go too deep into this phenomenon because I'm kind of working on like a more in-depth story about earthquake lights because it is a really strange and interesting phenomenon. It's a rabbit hole, I'll tell you.
It really is. And I mean, these lights, I was all over it right when it happened, but they creeped me out because of how long they went on. And it reminded me, do you remember when the power went out in New York, not like a couple of years ago? And
right.
You had the big blue lights and they're like, well, a transformer blew up or whatever. It's happened in many places, but historically, the earthquake lights have happened forever. And you have some places, that just have these weird lights appear almost like clockwork. And I mean, think of the Brown Mountain lights, I mean, this stuff happens.
Right.
And it's not exactly the same phenomenon. These earthquake lights are something though it's unexplained. They really don't know, man. It's very strange. Keep going. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So they talked to a USGS earthquake geologist named Austin Elliott. And he was talking about how you can't really rely on the videos to illustrate that these are specifically earthquake lights. There is the chance that because of the shaking, there were power lines swaying. They always go with that explanation, transformers, power lines, and possibly that could be some of the explanation. But, there is a phenomenon out there, and they believe that it's caused by the friction of rock near the Earth's crust, which kind of releases energy into the atmosphere, and it produces this flash of light. It is a known phenomenon. It is something that happens, and supposedly that is what people think happened.
I mean, it's a theory, known phenomena. They don't know that. They can't, I don't think they've recreated that in a lab.
No, not specifically.
And it's nuts. And anybody who watches the video, which, listen, half the people in that town took a video of this.
Yes.
Because it was nuts, and they thought it was the freaking apocalypse.
Yeah, they were freaking out.
So a couple of little wires going down doesn't make you think that Jesus is riding in on a stallion.
No. And you would think once the Transformers were doing that, they wouldn't do it for that long.
Yeah, no, it was crazy.
Yes, it was very crazy. So definitely a really weird video and a strange thing that happened. But like I said, we're kind of working on more in-depth thing on earthquake lights.
Yeah, I was already working on it. And this happened to happen. And there you go.
All right. So that's sort of like a teaser.
Yeah, there's a lot of teasers.
All right. So let's move on and let's talk about SpaceX. Of course, as you're listening to this, it's time for them to do their all-civilian flight into space.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is some things have changed. I mean, there was a lot of unexpected space flights that happened, albeit not like this one. This is the only one that's actually circumferencing. I mean, this is actually going in orbit and going around the Earth, right?
Right. Yes. So what they're going to be doing is launching from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral, Florida. And they're aiming for an altitude of 335 miles, which is about 75 miles higher than the International Space Station and on level with the Hubble telescope. And I believe they're going to be there for a few days, orbiting the Earth, and then they will land. So the other two billionaires, they just went up for a few minutes, got some weightlessness, came back.
Yeah.
It was more of a, touristy thing. This is a space flight.
Right.
And it is all civilian. We talked about it, of course. It was like the billionaire that was going up and he did the contest and, other people in St. Jude's. It's all benefiting St. Jude's Children's Hospital. So they do have the launch date set for the 15th, but depending on the weather, they have a backup date for the 16th. And I'm not sure, it doesn't say in this particular article if they're going to stream the launch or anything like that. I believe that they are.
Oh, yeah.
I believe it's going to all be online. So you can definitely look for that coming up in a couple days. Hopefully the weather holds out.
Well, we'll be watching it.
Yes, absolutely. I am very interested in seeing how that goes.
Yeah, me too. Good luck.
Yes, very. Our thoughts go with them, definitely.
No, and like I said, look, I really think that, they've probably made a bunch of safety alterations. I mean, because there's been so many that's went up. And it's, it's somewhat safe. So we wish them the best.
All right, so speaking of space, let's talk about something mysterious that has been discovered.
Oh, boy.
So something mysterious near the galactic center is flashing radio signals.
Oh, my God. What?
They don't know what it is.
Are the radio signals pissed about that?
The radio signals are like, I am not that kind of radio signal. Stop.
It's like, zzz, what is that in the middle of the galactic center? Exit. Zzz. And oh my goodness. Hey, oh, I call this one a helicopter. Hello, hi.
So, this is a newly discovered source of radio signals located not far from the center of the galaxy, and the astronomers have been unable to figure out what kind of cosmic object best fits its weird properties. Now, this is a paper that's been accepted for publication into the Astrophysical Journal. It's like on the preprint server right now. And it's got a really strange name. It's like ASCAP with a bunch of letters and numbers after it is what they're calling it. But they're saying it's a highly polarized variable radio source located near the galactic center with no clear multi-wavelength counterpart. So they're just stumped. They have absolutely no idea what this thing is. They said it might turn out to be some known type of cosmic object, but if it is, then it's doing stuff that they didn't know it could do.
Yeah, man. Listen. There's been so many things with the FRBs. We've been reporting them since the first RB. And, it's gotten crazier and crazier. Curiouser and curiouser.
Right.
Outside of our solar system, inside, from next door, all kinds of stuff. It's, and when you see it broke down on like a special on Science Channel, they make it such a big, ominous deal. There's radio signals coming from somewhere that we don't understand, and they're at the same distance every time. I mean, and it's really weird, right?
Right.
So I don't know, man. There's so much stuff here recently that's got me wondering about all this stuff. Just the other night, we were watching a deal with the CIA's special programs and the psychic research that they've done with, several people, remote viewers, and the giving the coordinates to the guy, that he had no idea if he figured it was just something on Earth, and they told him how far back they wanted him to go in 100 million years or whatever, and describe what he sees, and what they gave was the
pyramids of Sidonia on Mars.
Right.
And he did come up with that.
Yeah, he came up with that, except there was civilization, and it was like a dire situation because they were trying to find somewhere to live, and it's just cool because it's all written down, man. It's like, you think about that and you hear about something in the middle of our freaking galaxy.
And we don't know what it is.
Yeah, we don't know what it is.
So the signal, they say, is highly variable. In other words, they'll see it for like weeks at a time, but then it'll disappear. And it's really hard to find it. There are several telescopes that can't even detect it, but they have made several observations. I think they said between April 2019 and August 2020, the signal appeared in the data that they were looking at 13 times.
Wow.
And so they started using different radio telescopes for some follow-up observations. And some of them didn't yield anything, but some of them got a hit, a couple this year. And I think the last hit was in April of this year. So it validates that it's there, but it's helped them rule out things like pulsars, X-ray binaries, gamma ray bursts, supernova. I mean, things that they know how they act.
Right.
They ruled all of those things out. So they have no idea what this thing is, and they're just working on trying to capture it some more.
Yeah, so now
very interesting. Yeah.
It's like, well, we don't know what it is. Let's tell the folks.
Let's go ahead and print a paper.
I mean, that's crazy, man. Especially since they've went through their known phenomena.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I think. And I think it's interesting that it's not like with the fast radio bursts where you can kind of set a timer by them.
Right.
It's not like that. It's variable. Like it just does it whenever it wants to. That's like, really weird.
Maybe it's like a giant cat.
Possibly.
It's like, we can't get it to cooperate, sir. Meow.
You know all those asteroids that come flying at Earth?
Yeah.
It's a cat.
That's it. I would not doubt that at all.
So speaking of asteroids and comets. Were we speaking of comets?
We were.
I just wanted to mention this because this is a story from a couple weeks ago, and I hadn't mentioned it yet, but it's about how astronomers have discovered the largest known comet, and it's about 1,000 times more massive than any others. And it's called the Bernardinelli-Bernstein.
Is it really?
It is. It was found by the University of Pennsylvania Department of Physics and Astronomy graduate student Pedro Bernardinelli and Professor Gary Bernstein. Yes. Yeah. Shocker, right?
Right.
They say it's between 62 to 124 miles across.
Oh my God.
So this discovery was announced back in June, and I guess the information has just recently been coming out.
Planet killer.
Yes. And they said that they spotted the object only a week or so before they did this dissertation. They were actually looking for trans-Neptunian objects. Like they were not
that's
out.
Progressive of them.
They weren't out looking for a comet. And trans-Neptunian objects are rather large. And so when they came across this object, they saw how large it was and they knew it wasn't what they were looking for, but they didn't know what it was. And so they had to keep looking at it and studying it. And it turned out that it was a comet, and it was just so large that they were blown away. So very interesting. They are able to, now that they know where it is and that it's, where it's going, they're going to just look at it constantly and sort of study it as it travels through space and hopefully get a lot of extra information on comets.
Wow.
And things like that. So it's not very often that you see one that's that large and that far away that you can study.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's nuts. Hopefully we can see it and blow it up.
I don't think it's going to get that close to Earth. I believe it's not going to get any closer to us than Saturn.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Yeah, and it's going to be like 10 years.
Oh, still, yeah. It's time to send Bruce Willis.
Well, I'll tell you, when they give timelines like that, it always makes me nervous because they're like, oh, it'll be 10 years before it makes its closest approach to Earth. But then we read the story months ago how they're doing these drills on asteroids and comet, and the time frame that they give them is 10 years. And
yeah.
Like, why that coincidence? That seems
there's
weird.
So much stuff around 2030.
I know.
There's so much stuff. It's like, well, we think we'll have contact. We think that... Did you see what Elon Musk has done?
Oh, Lord, what has Elon Musk done?
I didn't think you had the story.
I hadn't seen this one.
So, he was the one that... He warned us, famously warned us about androids taking over everything.
Right.
Well, he made one.
Oh, Lord.
Had it on stage, all this stuff. I'll leave it at that.
Does it do anything weird?
Well, it's Elon.
Yeah.
So it's supposedly pleasure. It's got a pleasant disposition.
Oh, that's not where I thought you were going.
No, I almost went there,
wow.
But it was like by mistake.
Right.
So I'm sure he's fitted that in there.
Oh wow! I'll have to go look that up.
Well, hey,
I'll have to look that up.
Why don't you come over here?
Oh, so new comet. They did say in this article that as more people were spotting the new comet, that the story did change a little. Now, as comets get closer to the sun and they warm up, like the ice starts melting and it starts giving them that fuzzy look because the ices are, evaporating and vaporizing away. And they're thinking that perhaps it's become this gaseous cloud and maybe it's not as big as the first estimates said that it was. I don't know if they're just trying to make us feel better about it, but there's a chance that it's not quite that big. But I don't know. It's big enough that they saw it that far away.
Yeah, it's big.
So it's too big for me. Let's just say that.
There you go.
All right. So while we're talking about space and UFOs, let's just do a couple little quick UFO stories. And this one's about Michio Kaku.
Kaku.
Grandpa hair.
Grandma hair.
Oh, grandma hair. Sorry.
Grandpa hair is a completely different thing.
This is just a really interesting story about an interview that he did. I love it when he does interviews because he's so funny. And he talks about how scientists must, quote, keep an open mind about UFOs.
Yeah.
And he said that, now if you don't know who Michio Kaku is,
then you've not been playing.
Yeah, he's a renowned theoretical physicist, and he loves to offer his visions of, humanity's future and aliens and what happens if
He's
we
a TV
contact
guy,
them.
man.
Yeah.
Listen, I've been in a
He's
feud.
the interview guy.
I've been in a feud with Kaku since 2009.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the whole Kaku thing.
I believe that these particular comments came in something that he tweeted, in which he said, many physicists are skeptical because the stars are so far away, but that assumes ET is only a century ahead of us. Imagine if the aliens are millions of years more advanced than us. New laws of physics open up, so keep an open mind.
Yeah.
Now, he had previously said that he thinks it's likely we'll make contact with an extraterrestrial civilization within this century, but he also believes that we should be really cautious about making the first move since we're probably meddling with things that are way ahead of us, obviously.
Right, yeah.
So he says, and this is where the interview comes in, an interview he did before, it says that it's a bad idea to advertise our existence. And I believe that that's been said before.
It
did
has.
Stephen Hawking say something similar to that?
He said something. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
do not meddle. Okay. Oh, sorry. I slipped.
Right.
Yeah, something like that.
Right. So it's funny because he used Cortez and Montezuma as like a example of like what happens when people that are stronger than you and have more technology come to
Oh, yeah.
where you're at. It doesn't end well.
Yeah, well, the whole thing is
Mm-hmm.
that's provided that everything they tell us is authentic, which it's not.
Right.
And
Right.
the aliens know us already. Mm-hmm. I mean, let's not
absolutely.
pretend that when we hear things like this, it's just some other butt wipe that's pretending, well, they're not here yet or whatever. Listen, damn it. They're here.
They're here.
All the video evidence that you had and everything. I don't even know why we talk about stuff like this. They slap him in the face when he starts talking about, well, maybe they'll come when they're here, jackass. That's all you got to say. They're here, Jack. Just see what he does.
Well, let's talk about another UFO enthusiast, shall we?
Please.
How about lovely Demi Lovato?
Oh.
Yes.
Well, okay.
So we have talked about how she is doing her own UFO show.
Yeah.
Unidentified with Demi Lovato.
I'm watching that.
And so I have this article saying that's going to air on Peacock starting September 30th.
Demi Lovato on my cock.
And I believe, no, that's not what I said. Focus.
Well, no, I was.
It's on Peacock.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Starting September 30th. And I believe there's a trailer out for it now that you can watch. And in the trailer, she's talking about how she had this crazy experience that happened to her in Joshua Tree, which I believe we spoke about before.
Yeah.
She saw the bright light and it moved in the weird way. She is absolutely a UFO experiencer. She wants to investigate what she saw and help other people be believers in UFOs. And I think I haven't watched the trailer yet, but it talks about it here. And it says that, she questions, what if they aren't traveling light years to visit us?
Yeah.
What if they're already here?
Yeah. Good, Demi.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And supposedly she's going to be talking to experts and... And there's one clip in the trailer where an expert brandishes a tool designed to connect with aliens and asks it to say hello to Demi. And somehow it makes some kind of sound like a greeting. And that was very shocking. So I don't know. I'm going to check the show out. I think it's going to be really interesting.
Does she handle the tool?
And I don't have any idea.
Oh.
I guess we'll have to watch on the 30th and find out.
Can't wait to see. So hope she starts doing conventions.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be cool.
It would, wouldn't it?
I'd be like, what conventions do you want to do this year, honey? Hold on, let me check. DemiLovato.com.
Yeah. I mean, she's fun for a boy and a girl. All right. So
let's move on.
Okay.
From Demi Lovato.
I'm moving.
Okay, let's talk about some discoveries.
Yes.
Now, this one's really cool. It's about...
At least I have a type. And
you do
that
have a type.
So,
I am. I am in the type. It's not hard.
Yeah, it is.
Your daughter's the same way. Your daughter has a type. Like, Raj and I were watching a movie the other night, and Raj was like, that's Ari's favorite character. And then Ari watched it, and that was her favorite character.
And it was odd, because it wasn't a main character.
No, it was a side character, but it was her type, so it was funny. All right, so this is from Teotihuacan.
Love Teotihuacan.
So this is just an article about a discovery that was made below a pyramid there.
Yeah.
The feathered serpent pyramid.
Yes.
Yes. So now this is not a brand new discovery, but this article is about some things that, they've been studying this for years and years. And this just lists out a whole bunch of really cool things that they are just telling us that they found under there. So let me explain to you how they found this tunnel to begin with. So this was back in 2003. And there was a heavy rainstorm that swept through the ruins of Teotihuacan. And the archaeologist that was working there is named Sergio Gomez. He's an archaeologist with Mexico's National Institute of Anthropology and History. And when he arrived at work that day, he found a 3-foot wide sinkhole that had opened up at the foot of the pyramid, the Temple of the Plumed Serpent or the Feathered Serpent Pyramid. And they were like, oh my gosh, what on earth are we going to do with this? This is awful. So he got down in there because he was afraid that they were going to have to try and find a way to fill it in. And when he got down into the tunnel, he realized that it was a man-made tunnel. And he could make out some part of a ceiling, but the tunnel itself was blocked off in both directions by these huge stones. So the hole that opened up, the sinkhole that opened up, was not the actual entrance. It laid a few yards back and had been intentionally sealed with large boulders nearly 2,000 years ago. So whatever was inside that tunnel, they packed those boulders in. They did not want anyone in there.
Right.
And it was just luck that they found it. They had no idea that it was there. Obviously, he said it was meant to stay hidden forever. So he has been studying this now since 2003, personally. Over a decade. And they have found over 100,000 artifacts.
Wow.
That's how many have been cataloged so far. They range from finely carved statues, jewelry, shells, and ceramics, as well as thousands of wooden and metallic objects that mostly survived the passage of time intact because nobody has been down there. Now, pretty much got the whole tunnel excavated now. It sort of goes under the pyramid and ends in 3 different chambers. It's just taken them this long to meticulously catalog all of the things. But when you go on a tour down in there, it was 100-meter long tunnel. And when you look at the walls, it looks like molten lava. They studded the walls with iron pyrite, which is commonly known as fool's gold.
Yeah.
So it's very...
that was to make it look like the cosmos, to mimic the sky. Right. And that was the big reason they did that.
Mm-hmm. And they talk about in this particular article about how they found this large offering. It was 17 separate layers of shells that had been meticulously laid down by priests, one on top of the other. And it looked like the bottom layers had been crushed, like maybe somebody had been standing on them or something heavy had been on it. They found several thousand pieces of iron pyrite, possibly imported from as far away as Honduras. And they were beads and discs in the bottom half of a cup, around 8,000 wooden objects, things like that. And the final discovery that they made is the one that was so interesting. The reason they did this article is a circular pit that was carved into the tunnel floor. It was previously missed by laser scans, but they ended up finding it after everything was taken out, where priests had tossed bunches of flowers. And on top of those flowers, they placed a heap of wood, some corn, some seeds, and some miniature stone, like a miniature stone carved pyramid. And then they set it all on fire.
Yeah.
And they were able to study the charred wood and pinpoint, when this happened. That's the whole
reason it survived.
Yeah. So it's just unbelievable. They found statues of jaguars, fragments of human skin, elaborate necklaces. The amazing amount of things they found under the pyramid is just unbelievable.
I can see the 2 ghosts right now going, oh, they found our landfill. Oh, look at the crazy gringo. He's so funny.
Oh, well, it's a really, really...
Oh, don't pick that up, Senior. No. Jeez. He touched it. Did he really? Oh.
We'll have to tour under there with a recorder. But a really interesting article, and I love that the same guy has been working on that since the beginning.
I wonder if the guy loves it. You know,
I think he does.
Like, how's it going, Pablo?
I mean,
I'm doing good. I found okay the stuff down here. It's a half a cup. It's the bottom of a cup. Like a cup. It's the bottom of a cup. It's a cup. And I found this shell. You see the shell? Isn't that cool? It's how you say it. It's a shell. I found a shell.
how many archaeologists can say they found something that had over 100,000 artifacts?
How many archaeologists is he counting every little single piece of pyrite?
I mean, I think it's all absolute artifacts.
So tell us, Gomez, did you find something, I don't know how to say this. I mean, we've been funding this for 20 years. Did you find some riches?
No. I found fool's gold. Tons of fool's gold. It was pasted everywhere like the cosmos. It was cool.
Looks like gold, not gold.
They burned some stuff like maybe a landfill.
I don't know. It's cool, though. It really is cool that it's down there that far. They were obviously doing rituals. Mm-hmm. And, man, there were some ritual-loving people, weren't they?
It makes me wonder why they blocked it off so hard, though.
Oh, probably for the curse.
You think?
I mean, yeah.
I mean, it doesn't say that there's anything, like what they're reporting that they found on there isn't anything overly expensive. So either they found something they're not telling us about.
The demon. I mean, it's like we're going to find, we're going to get into like the last chamber, and it's going to be, these are the instructions we use to catch the demon.
Do not let it out.
Whatever you do, don't take the pyrite out. We finally found something it's good for.
Can you imagine? You can be the guy. All right, listen, post this sign on the outside before you put any of the boulders in. Make sure you post this sign on the outside.
He gets it all sealed up and he's like, balls.
I left the sign inside. Oh, well, nobody will know.
I can make another one. Well, it's okay. We got some friends from Spain showing up. They say they're from Spain. Should be okay. They're wanting to have dinner with us.
Okay, we'll do it after. We'll do it after.
Yeah, we'll do it after. The one guy's got the sniffles. Watch out.
All right. Well, let's move on to another discovery. This is one of your favorite. In fact, the first sentence reads like this. The discovery of a hand-carved bone at an archaeological site near Rome upends scientists' previous understanding of when early humans began using certain tools.
Now, we could save that, do it in a couple weeks.
Yeah, and
do it a couple weeks ago.
It's
story. The same story.
So this is kind of cool. It's about a hand-carved 400,000-year-old bone tool that was used for smoothing leather.
Oh, yeah.
So that's obviously...
Usually when they find them, I honestly believe they're mostly shaped like penises, and they were used for that reason. And we just don't find out about those. Like, they've got the one, they're like, how old's that one? It comes back like 1.4 million. 1.4 million!
Right.
And it's got, what does it have on there? Runes to the secrets of life. But it's a penis, sir. A very large penis. Oh, we can't share that.
Right.
We can't share that at all. Tell you what, put it in my bag, and I'll make sure that it comes out at the right time. With the others, sir? With all of them, yes, sir.
Well, they claim that this sort of tool was not commonly used until about 100,000 years later, is what they thought, I guess, is what they mean.
Pull that out of their ass. Does one of them drop his pants and say, pull the first thing out? And that's what we'll say.
Okay, 100,000 years from now, that's when we use this. So this particular archaeological site, it's an open-air dig at Castel de Guido.
Oh, that sounds like a fun place.
And they have a
Castel de Guido.
Huge haul of 98 bone tools.
And a bunch of
so
pasta.
It's really a large sample of things, but this was the only tool that was like this. And of course, they found other bone tools at other sites from the same time period, but this is the first time they found this particular type of leather scraper, and so now it's just upended everything.
Yeah, I mean, and you got to think, it's not like some bloke just came along. It's like, oh, hey, I'm going to smooth some leather today. Let me make this.
Yeah, no.
That was learned from somebody.
Mm-hmm. And it had a purpose.
Yeah, it wasn't the first.
I certainly hope they're writing their information down in pencil.
Yeah.
So they can, erase.
Yeah, they're not.
All right, so let's talk about this next discovery. This one's a mystery.
Ooh.
So this is a mysterious discovery of more than 80 skeletons that were found buried in shallow graves on a building site. Now, this has sparked calls for an official probe. Now, what happened was the bodies, which appeared to have their hands tied behind their backs, were found on a patch of old farmland in Buckingham, and they're thought to have been there for centuries. Now, they were unearthed early last year during some groundworks ahead of building a 72-bed care home that's being built on the site.
Yeah.
And of course, they commissioned an archaeologist to
Somebody's
come
grandma's like,
and investigate.
Don't put me in that one. Whatever you do, don't put me in that one. Please, God. I've already been seeing your uncle. Don't put me in that one.
Well, here's the mystery. All of the bones were removed and they left these empty holes in the ground, but there was never an archaeologist's report. It was never revealed. Nobody has any idea. They are aware that the number of bodies were uncovered, that it was odd because they had their hands tied behind their backs. It was obviously some sort of execution type sort of thing, maybe.
Or a naughty body.
But nobody ever reported on it. Nobody has any idea what happened to the bodies or where they are now or what the thoughts on it are. So they're starting this official probe into what happened to this find that they had. I guess they're still building the care home. I'm with
probably
you.
digging it, and it was like, ring, ring, ring. Hello?
Mm-hmm.
Is this Johnson?
Yeah, this is archaeologist Johnson.
You must hide all of the skeletons. I am part of an ancient order.
Mm-hmm.
An ancient order that has hidden these things for years from our Nazi parties. They can't find out about these. It went wrong. It went very, very wrong. We didn't know what they had spiked the drink with.
Right.
You know, I don't know. It's really crazy.
It is very strange. They did talk to a historian, and he said he believed the bones were from the Anglo-Saxon period from between 410 to 1066.
Yeah.
And he said, it's potentially the biggest find of executed prisoners in the whole of the south of England from that time. But, nobody has any idea. And I don't know. I mean, I don't think I'd want to go. I would not put one of my relatives in that care home. I mean, you want a haunted care home?
Well, I mean, leave the holes.
Yeah. Leave the holes.
I mean,
we could use those.
Yeah.
Could you just
we
leave
might
them?
need those later.
Just leave them. Wow, that's
I'm
terrible.
getting better. Shut up, you. You're sick.
All right, so let's talk about some things that were found by accident.
They're all found.
More things that were found by accident. Yes, so this is about some builders that discovered a stash of 239 gold coins at a manor in northwestern France. Now, this 3 craftsmen found the treasure while working on the restoration of a house in Plosvet, Brittany. I apologize for
Brittany's a beautiful place.
the pronunciation of that. And this was back in 2019. Now, these coins are going up for sale at auction. The property had been purchased by a couple in 2012, and they were trying to merge the barn and a nursery and sort of revamp the place for, before they moved in.
And the
the builders found a metal box lodged inside a wall, which had gold coins inside. And then a few days later, above a beam, they spotted a purse containing another set of coins. Now, all 239 coins were minted during the sovereignty of Louis XIII and Louis XIV. And
Todd, this piece of paper here says there's supposed to be 460 of these gold coins.
The oldest of them.
Oh, I'll be damned. I didn't see that.
The oldest of them dates back to 1638, and the most recent was 1692. And it says there's several especially rare coins among the collection, including the golden louis with the Templar cross. And there's a golden louis with a long curl and a Louis XIV by the Atelier de Dijon, which
and
is
the ultra rare diamond louis.
Estimated value of 15,000 euros. So now this mansion itself,
the whimsical Louis Louis.
The mansion itself was constructed in the 13th century, and it would have been owned by a family of affluent merchants or farmers. And so the last known occupants stemmed from like the 18th century. So the value of the coins is going to be determined by the auction house on September 29th. And when they auction them off, whatever they get is going to be split between the people that own the house and the builders. Like they're going to split it 50-50, which I thought was very nice.
Hell with the builders.
Yeah, I'd be like, no, it's our house.
The builders have already split that.
But very cool. Like they're just, you can see the pictures. The coins are pristine. They're just beautiful.
I'd be like,
crazy.
I'm sorry, builder. Did I pay you? We. Okay, I paid you the full amount that you were asking. We. In that contract, did it say, if I find a purse of gold coins, you're going to get half? No. All right, then. Get on out.
Oh, wow.
Send me to a wellness home.
All right, so let's talk about this one last. This is about a mysterious medieval tunnel that was found by accident in Wales. Now, there was a routine excavation that was going on, and they happened to come across this tunnel that didn't appear on any ordnance survey.
It's been happening a lot in England recently. It really has.
So a man named Alan Gore, he's a technician for the Western Power Distribution. He was working on a project, and he said he had a phone call about 2 hours into the work, and they said, we found a cave. So the digging had revealed a small opening tucked beneath a cluster of rocks and nearly obscured by vines. And, caves aren't quite that unusual in the area, but when they looked a little closer, they realized that it wasn't a cave at all. It was a stone tunnel. And they saw that part of the side of the banking had caved in, and you could see that it was man-made. And the tunnel followed a public footpath towards a place called Tintern Abbey, which is a 12th century abbey built by the Cistercian monks, whose ruins are actually visited by thousands of people each year. Now, these particular monks, like this abbey, has a great history to it because it seems like, I don't think they know exactly where the tunnel goes because they just initially, they had to call people in, but it does head towards that abbey. Now, the abbey is the first of its kind in Wales. It was like very secluded in a wooded valley, and it was the home of the 12th century order of Cistercian, what they call white monks. And they call them that because their habits were white. Like
Right.
They wore all white. They were undyed. And it was very remote. It suited their order of simplicity and seclusion, austerity and manual labor. And when the Black Death hit Britain, many of the monks were amongst those who perished. And supposedly these ruins that people visit are extremely haunted. And even, I think there's like, if you look it up, you'll find like this photo of a ghostly hooded figure that was captured by some urban explorer a few years ago.
Yeah.
But very, very cool. There's a couple of legends about the place that I love. It says there's a legend that the devil used to sit outside the abbey on a stony outcrop where he would endeavor to entice the monks away from Christianity with promises of great wealth.
Wow.
And then there's another legend that tells of a group of young men, like in the 17 or 1800s, who decided to dig within the abbey grounds looking for like antiquities and things like that. But instead, they found skeletons of two individuals who they assumed must be the remains of two white monks. And to celebrate their find, they went inside the abbey ruins, took the remains in there, and like had like a little party, a feast. And that evening they were laughing and joking of what the dead monks would have thought of what they were doing, being disrespectful. And as the legend goes, as they were doing that, the skies darkened and a storm threw up, and there was thunder and lightning. And the sudden unexpected change in the weather unnerved them. But then a mist descended on the abbey, and a huge windstorm came through and blew everything out that they were doing out of the abbey ruins.
Jesus.
And they, of course, were horribly terrified, ran away, and I guess they never returned. I don't know how that ends, but so they supposedly saw a ghostly procession of what they thought were monks, and then, the storm and everything. So
That's awesome.
really cool legends for the place. I love that they found this hidden tunnel because I feel like it has to have something to do with the abbey.
Well, there's more than that going on because some of the things they found recently are just freaking insane
Yeah.
because of the size of them. And England's not the biggest place. You know, you would think that a lot of things would have been found already.
Right.
But just recently, like 3 days ago, there's a story that hit.
Okay.
And you made me think about it. I had to pull it up.
Okay.
Researchers unearthed a nearly 900-year-old church in England.
Wow.
And experts made to find ahead of the construction of the HS2, a controversial high-speed railway system set to connect much of Great Britain. So archaeologists in Buckinghamshire, England, have unearthed the remains of a medieval church dating back to 1080, reports Esther Adley for The Guardian. The structure is among many exciting archaeological finds made ahead of the construction of the HS2, the controversial high-speed railway system set to connect much of Great Britain. Previous discoveries include the skeleton of an Iron Age murder victim,
Oh, wow.
remnants of Britain's prehistoric coastline, medieval graffiti known as witches' marks, and a former hunter-gatherer site on the outskirts of London. Most of those we've either talked about amongst ourselves or we've reported on.
Right.
According to the BBC News, the team of more than 40 researchers made the recent find during digs at the Old St. Mary's Church in Stoke Mandeville, Buckinghamshire. While excavating the area, experts uncovered 3-foot-tall flint walls forming a square structure, a circular boundary ditch, and a number of burials beneath the religious building, reports Ollie Searle of the Bucks Free Press. The work undertaken at Old St. Mary's is a unique archaeological opportunity to excavate a medieval parish church with over 900 years of meaning to the local community.
Wow.
St. Mary's also made the news this May when researchers announced that they would move nearly 3,000 bodies to a new burial ground during the excavation. But anyway, I mean, another one I was going to show you here, what they found here. Look at that.
Wow, that's beautiful.
And that was hidden.
That's crazy.
Isn't it?
That's so crazy.
It was hidden. They hadn't found it. And you just come across that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's magnificent.
Yeah.
And it's so haunted.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's
I'm
just-
sure.
I mean, going back to 1080, dude. I mean,
Yeah, and that's like this. That abbey is
Talk
really,
about the devil sitting on the
really
porch.
old. I know. I think that abbey was like 1131. So that church is even older.
It is,
than the
yeah.
abbey. The only thing I'll mention about that tunnel is it was a little strange because you couldn't stand up in it. It was only like 4 feet tall. So a very small tunnel. So I'm not sure what it would have been used for,
could
but
have been for
very strange.
little people. I mean,
Could have been.
you never know.
All right, so I just have a couple more stories right here. at
Could
the
have been
end.
what the gold was.
Yes, could have been.
There'd be a lot of trouble.
All right, so I just have a couple more stories here right
Okay.
at the end of the show. And this first one is sort of a conspiracy theory type story. It's about how the super wealthy are funding a mysterious lab to unlock immortality.
Well, that's
Mm-hmm.
not news at all, really.
It's really not, except this has actually launched now. It's a new and somewhat shadowy Silicon Valley company that's dedicated to anti-aging research, and it's getting major funding from some really wealthy people. It's called Altos Labs. It's a biological reprogramming tech company, and it's attracting some big name investors such as Jeff Bezos and Yuri Milner. And some of the folks that they are bringing into work are kind of raising some eyebrows.
Specialist in baby spinal fluid.
Juan Carlos Izpisua Belmonte, who is a biologist at the Salk Institute in La Jolla, California, is among the many scientists, and he made waves back in 2017. We talked about this when he began research into creating the human pig chimera.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I remember that.
and there's another scientist, a Nobel Prize winner for his research into aging reversal in cells. And of course, what they're doing is they're basically throwing tons of money at these scientists. Like they're offering them 3 times what they're making now and giving them free reign to do any of the experiments they need to do to learn how to reverse aging.
Just imagine the creatures that'll be roaming those hills in a few months.
It'll be crazy. One of the researchers that's going there, he said he was drawn to the place after they offered to pay him 5 to 10 times what he currently earns.
Good Lord.
Isn't that insane?
This would be a good time to let them know that I have some anti-aging things. It's, I mean, listen, I don't know how they don't know this.
Right.
Bathe in the blood of virgins. I mean, it's helped evil queen after evil queen.
You think so? You think that's what it is? Is
Yeah.
that the secret?
Well, I mean, that or finding some chick that has really long hair.
Wow. Okay.
Well, I mean,
Magical hair.
yeah, it's magical hair, bathe in the blood of virgins. I mean, just don't let me help you in that part of it. I can try to
Right.
coach you and round them up or stuff, but they'll be like, I don't know why it's not working. Well, you've kept them in that house, right? Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it should all be good.
Oh, wow.
They were virgins, right? They were, yes. They all were.
Promise.
Gonna go now.
Wink, wink.
Best of luck.
All right. So this last story is from Atlanta, and it's about the Chattahoochee River. And
Way down yonder on the Chattahoochee.
this is a Channel 2 Action News does like their reports, where they investigate things, like investigative reporting.
Channel 2 investigates.
Yes. And so this is about Channel 2 investigating how hundreds of decapitated goats have been turning up in the Chattahoochee River over the past few years.
Wow.
So they went out, Channel 2 went out, and they got in a boat and they were going down the river. And as they were going down the river with this gentleman that was explaining to them how this happens, they found a headless goat in the river. And then another one and another one. And when they were out there, they saw 30 of them floating down the river.
Oh, my God.
They also talked about how they had a witness who recorded cell phone video of goats being tossed into the river from the I-20 bridge. You can actually hear the bodies splashing down, and it doesn't happen in the middle of the night all the time. Sometimes it's in the middle of the day. But there's a lot of questions that remain unanswered, like why are these goats headless? Where are they coming from? And they believe that because they did a story several years ago about people leaving dead chickens and goats' heads and things, they believe it has something to do with Santeria and some kind of practice where people are practicing Santeria and they are just tossing. I guess they need the goats' heads, but they don't need the rest of the goat.
Well, they asked the one guy, and he was like, I don't practice Santeria. Ain't got no crystal. Sorry.
So clearly, this citizen, his name's Jason Ulseth, he works for an environmental group called the Chattahoochee River Keeper. He's really concerned about the number of headless goats that are being dumped in the river. He said over the past couple of years, he's seen a couple of hundred, normally 20 to 30 at a time, but that he's very concerned.
I mean, that is a hell of a spell.
That is a lot of headless goats.
It really is.
I feel like you need to find a new way to dispose of your goat bodies.
Well, I mean, so there's a bunch of goat heads somewhere then, right?
Yeah, I think the goat heads are used in the rituals. So I guess they're just dumping the body because they don't need it. I have no idea. It's really unusual, though. I couldn't imagine like boating down the river and all of a sudden a ton of headless carcasses just come floating by. That would be terrible.
And this is on the Chattahoochee.
The Chattahoochee.
Wow. Mm-hmm. That's just nuts, man.
I know. So, interesting report there.
Listen, if you're one of the ones, doing these bad things, just, get a hold of us and let us know what your end game is.
Right.
Just interested.
Curious what you're doing with all the goat heads.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I could point you to a few, though, that creep me out.
At least, I mean, the head is the creepiest part.
It really is, yeah.
It's
until
the eyes.
you see it without the head. Then you may beg to differ.
All right, well, that's all my news.
Well, that was really good and creepy as hell. Mm-hmm. So glad you ended on such a high note.
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's all good. I hope that we creeped you out, significantly through this episode. And I hope that we also got you some interesting things. You enjoyed a little bit of it and you suffered through a little rest of it. I don't know. It's good stuff. We'll be right back next week and same bat time, same bat channel. And we'll be bringing you some more of our little goodies from the investigations and all kinds of more wacky news. Because you know what? It ain't going to stop.
Nope.
It just ain't going to stop. For my lovely wife, Stacey, who ain't going to stop either. I'm John. So long from the Sideshow.
Good night.